My name's Arianne Sutner, and I am a producer on this movie along with Travis Knight, and I am the head of production at LAIKA.
My name's Craney. I'm the puppet fabrication supervisor.
Ooh. Congratulations, Sarah, on all the amazing work that you've done.
It's a team effort, but thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So, wait, you were just asking a question about this guy.
Yeah, they're talking about the skeletons, like, is there a skeleton
armature.
inside?
Yes.
There is a skeleton.
Armature. That's what it's called. Oh, okay.
We call it an armature, but it basically is a skeleton. It has the same kind of pivot points and joints that you would have. I mean, he's pretty human character, so we look for ball joints, use hinges. He's even got swivels in his upper arm and his thigh. And he also has some pretty intense engineering inside his chest and stomach so that he can take a breath. He can also squash and stretch. And he's got a belly mover in here that gives him that lovely bounce when he walks. And we did that because, he's a big fella, but he's a very lively, enthusiastic, exuberant character.
I was wondering about the balance of the whole thing.
Do you know, when you're working on a set, essentially stop motion started out on like tabletops, and his feet are screwed in underneath.
Oh.
And tied down, that's what we call it.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, with the level of sophistication, what we need to get out of these puppets and his weight, he often has an external rig on here. And those, along with the seams, get painted out during post-production. John works, I know, trying to get everything internally as best he can, but sometimes, there are limits.
Yeah, and
Next movie.
we different kind of lightweight alloys. They don't exist yet, but
He's working on it.
Yeah, and we also put actuators into what's called T-bars, which means that the animators can move. Often there is also I think called a jetpack, which is strapped to the back. It literally looks like a jetpack. It is strapped to the back of the puppets, and it's geared off so that you can just get those subtle shifts and moves. And, drop shoulders, sorry.
Our house style is really natural. So even though this is a maybe not a natural looking figure, we want him to be fluid. We're not really looking intentionally for like that jerky stop motion, which is an appeal and a style for some places. So the jetpacks really are helping our animators sometimes get that really tricky style. It's like the hardest thing to do, and they are literally just moving it a frame at a time. And so we, they're using that. I hate them because it just is another thing that you're painting out, and it probably takes longer, and then it's something that they lean on. But a lot of it really, they've grown to really love them.
Yeah, it adds a deeper level of performance. I mean, the thing about like style is everything stays on the move. We don't do holds. We don't do hold frames. And the other thing is, we don't do boil or crawl. So everything needs to be controlled.
They may not know what that means.
So boil and crawl.
Because they're normal humans.
Yeah, I will explain it. Boil is probably a European term for, and scatter is more an American thing. If you look at an old movie, say King Kong, 1933, or recently Isle of Dogs, which is very much in the kind of purist stop motion camp, is you see the scatter on the surface of puppets. You see movement in fur or clothing, and it's really not like a style. So we always seek to control that.
Right. We are, even though this is like clearly a designed creature, we still want a real sense of naturalism. We want the audience to not be bumped by something that is stop motion charm, a little. There's plenty of it in there, but we want to just have the audience lose sight of the fact that this is a puppet and just it's a creature and it's a world. And we think, and I do believe now, the less you have the audience think about like, what is happening, how are you doing that, you just get engrossed in the story. So that's our goal really with these characters and with their facial animation too. It's to while the world is stylized, to keep them natural and like it's just a being. Did you guys see this movie?
Not yet.
Some
I-
of
I've
us
seen it,
are.
Okay,
I loved it.
great.
But knowing LAIKA, you guys are so good at creating such natural characters, so I'm like fascinated that there's like a belly bounce machine in there. Like that's
There is.
crazy. That's like awesome.
Yeah.
All
Me and
controlled.
John have one too.
Are you saying that Gravity Falls lied about how stop motion is done with conjuring these creatures with dark magic, and you actually take puppets and move them frame by frame?
I think they're right. No, I'm not going to. I prefer that. I don't know if it's dark magic. It does feel magical. I think that's something about stop motion,
It is magical.
that it is magic. It's like it's the most basic visual effect, the old-fashioned effect, and it is magic. You move an inanimate object, frame at a time, you capture it, and it comes to life. So
You haven't seen this episode of Gravity Falls where
no,
they
but
talk
now I
about
feel like
stop
I should.
motion.
They're right. I
It's
think
very
it's a
funny.
good show,
Check it out.
and they're
But like,
absolutely right.
there's this animator who's like, "Are you kidding me? You think I would actually take puppets and move them frame by frame? I'm not a masochist."
What they are.
I just thought that was a funny little
That's
joke
so
about
cute.
it. But I say that because I really appreciate just the artistry that goes into making such a film, because I know it's such a monumental effort, but once you see it on screen, it's totally worth it.
We think it's worth it. John and I talk about
Absolutely.
this all the time. We're not equipped to do anything else, nor do we want
No.
to do anything else.
No.
And I think that, and there's something magical about having sets and real lights on things, and having in a working environment when you're working with like 400 traditional artists and contemporary artists. It's you're making magic, and then I think it gets transferred to the screen.
I'm just curious, when you presented the story in the beginning, there's something like, oh, we have to learn something new. We have to learn this new engineering trick now in order to bring this to life. Has that happened for Mr.
Yeah.
Luke?
Oh yes,
It happens all
definitely.
the time.
Happens all the time.
All the time.
I think
We relish it.
the 4 movies before, we wouldn't have been able to do so many of the things had we not done those 4 movies before. And when they were talking about the ship on the ocean, that these puppets, though John knows everything about making puppets, these are new and bespoke and special to this movie. So
James Cameron should take notes.
sorry.
James Cameron should take notes.
Oh, haha.
See what you're thinking, the challenge
I
each
take
time.
notes on.
Yeah, I
him.
mean, with every movie, we sort of step up. Something that came through on this movie was really, we talked about it before, but bringing performance from within the bodies, and in order to do that, we need to build into and present animators with a tool in order to create and realize that performance. And what we've learned on with this film and moving into the next one is that rather than a breather, for example, being a special edition, we've got designs down now that we can produce generically and make a fit for many other
So you'd be like even more
publishers
Because
in the future.
he's like so inspired to create everything within, because it's a puppet. Everything you add externally, you have to paint out, and is an extra step. So I think the goal is to have these, just walking on their own, talking. No.
So it probably requires a lot of coordination then with everything, because I guess someone has to breathe and then somebody has to move it each frame. Kind of situation, or is
One
it
individual.
More individual?
One
You do.
individual.
I mean, it's a host of people working on.
To
But
build,
once the animator gets everything they need, they get the vocal performance, and they're have worked closely with the director and the animation supervisor. Once they get to that set, then they're owning it, and they are there alone in the dark, moving it frame by frame, and they should know everything about their sequence, their scene, the scene that comes before it and after it. And so, then they're bringing this to life. We of course do so much preparation, intense story work, and we're broken down the scene, and they work closely with the teams. But at the end, it's like a solitary performance for them.
I feel exhausted.
I think this is.
I think it's.
I think this is like the most ambitious film you've ever done. I think you broke the mold of what LAIKA's done before, and you pushed past your limits. So with that in mind, was there any sequence or set piece that upon reading it you thought, I don't know how we're going to do this, and you pulled it off?
I I would say the boat at sea. I would say this fella felt like almost like he wasn't going to happen, and he turned out incredibly.
Yeah.
We have those specials like this really huge elephant that's walking on all fours. It's just like absolutely incredible, and they pulled that off. She's only in one scene. But we could tell you about the trials and tribulations of every camera. Stop motion is not the friend of hirsute characters. We don't like hair, especially in our style. And of course, these are Yetis, so there's that.
Yeah, there's a lot of hair management and fur management in this film, which is quite a thing. I mean, talking about, most sequences had their complexity. Most of the hero puppets have their complexity too. Apart from what's going on inside Link, for example, and how he, it's the aesthetic pass on the outside. There was also, a stylistic, pretty stringent stylistic rules that we needed to follow. One of Chris's big notes on this film, and it's, if you watch the film, it's a very deep kind of illustrative texture to the film, and the puppets needed to be part of that. And a big note from Chris was about not breaking profiles and keeping silhouettes intact. When you've got a large character like this, breaking and folding over, my belt line, for example, or whatever. There wasn't something that we wanted to see. So, apart from the mechanic, the engineering, the sort of metallurgy, that kind of engineering. There's also soft engineering going on inside him. If I could open him up, it's rather like a pineapple. There's different types of foam, soft foam, with diamonds that are situated and placed in them, so he can contract and constrict and not fold and not bend. So yeah.
Do you want to show her the inside?
Oh yeah, faces. So the other thing about Link, actually, I'm just yattering on. There you go.
Don't you mean Susan?
Susan.
I still call him Mr. Link.
Mr. Link is also good. Susan
That is
Link.
amazing engineering.
So yeah.
Wow.
And this is,
Not
this
just
is
the face.
There is a whole department for faces, the RP department. The puppet department primarily deal with puppets from the neck down and the forehead up. We do the wigs. Link represented a real, very solid connection. I think more so than any other film between, the rapid and facial department and puppets, because of this. The fur that surrounded his face. We needed to control that, and so we worked very closely with that department. You see in there's a driver, and that driver echoes every face shape. So there's a driver for every shape,
Is
and
it
this driver
similar
relates to the
an
fur.
animatronic or?
No.
Okay.
No, it's,
I mean, there's
no,
some
sort of.
similarities, but I mean, animatronic
Yeah.
is,
It's
somebody
motorized.
is, somebody
yeah, or
is,
cable or
it's
radio
motorized,
controlled,
and I once was in a costume like that, because somebody else is doing that. You're a human walking around, but someone is moving the eyes, say if it's a face. And this is all human, the hands on a puppet, moving it frame by frame. He's tied in under here. He's got usually some rigging that's supporting him, and the stuff gets painted out. But this is, it's like I said, it's like this one person in a set doing it. Yeah.
And I'm assuming this is all like custom made, like all the framework and everything on this one.
What's neat
So much
about LAIKA
involved.
is, we're based in Oregon, and we designed, and we manufacture and build, and everything is there. We don't farm anything out, although we do, for post-production we came to Los Angeles, but aside from that, really, we just do everything there.
Yeah, everything's in-house. There's nothing off the shelf. I mean, puppets could have hundreds of different components, and they're all considered at some level by some department or some individual, and that all needs to come together. And the other thing about it is that we don't just build one. I think there are 12 of this version of Link.
Usually,
11.
ideally, we'd want the number of animators that we have at like a hero puppet for every animator. So they should have a Link and Sir Lionel, and then they do lots of specials on top of that for different scenes or different costume changes. But that's the ideal, so that we have flexibilities. Animators have bounce units, so when they're busy, when they finish something, they can, and somebody's rechanging the set, they can have their puppet and kind of walk it to the next set. That's ideal. Maybe that didn't happen perfectly on this movie, but that's what we're always shooting for.
Yeah.
I think the visuals for Shangri-La looked really lovely. But I'm also very curious, like that ice bridge looked amazing, like the scale. But I'm curious, what material do you make the ice bridge out of?
That was like a hard silicone or plastic, right?
Yeah, resins, clear resins, and some silicones,
And
plastics basically, pourable plastics. Yeah.
Mold and cast and do everything at the studio. We certainly have a lot of space for it, and we have a lot of experts who do that. Yeah.
Is it the same material when I don't want to say, but it's. I mean, like the ice bridge breaks at one point. So is it the same material when it breaks?
No, because when it breaks, I mean, there's a mixture of practical material that we'll give to our visual effects department, and then they'll sweeten that with CG. We don't always do it that way, but we did in this case.
Okay.
But we always will build it first so that what they are making fits in with the world.
Because it looks so great, and I'm just curious, like, how did you do that? Because
it was the giant.
It looks.
That was the big challenge. That particular one.
Yeah,
I think that means
some replacement parts and breakaways.
It looked great though.
It looked so great, and it's also, so designed, and the patterning on that ice and how it broke was consistent with the rest of the movie, and yeah. When we talk about it, it sounds just ridiculous, but we're so proud of it.
There's actually 2 scales as well. And it's the first time we've used miniature puppets.
Oh yes.
And no one's picked it yet. So, and that I guess is you're referring to technological advancements. I mean, the ability to scan really accurately and produce scale versions from something like this.
But
we were able to do that now.
And they're animatable. That's the
Totally.
difference. We had some scaled versions in Kubo when, with that monster skeleton that kind of held in their hand. But these guys are animating.
Yeah,
These
so they've got
miniatures.
tiny little armatures
You
that
guys
were
must have like a big
designed
storage
digitally and then had at the studio.
Oh, what?
a big storage facility for all these
We
sets
do.
and
It's like
everything.
the Ark,
It's called
you know.
Siberia.
And we rented, and we're like hoarders, so we keep everything.
I was wondering.
For I don't know why.
It's
Yeah.
like Area 51, yeah.
The exhibit at Comic-Con was kind of the first way a lot of people got to see this behind the scenes. Like, we had no idea what went into your movies.
We welcome you to come to the studio, by the way.
Huh?
Oh, yeah, I would. I think, is that going to be back this year? Because it just keeps getting better.
I don't know what's going to happen with Comic-Con this year. For timing of the movie, of course. I wish it's post-release. We'll definitely have some presence there, and it might be also we're doing 10-year anniversary of Coraline, so it might support that as well. But yes, just timing-wise this year. I know. I love that people. It's so wonderful to be able to share it with people, and so yes, of course, come and see us at the studio. We'll give you a great tour. It's pretty cool.
And you're in Portland, right?
We're
That's
outside of Portland. We're about 20 miles outside of Portland, but yeah, we are.
With the advancement in technology, especially with fabrication of the puppets, are you able to do more than one production now? Are you doing multiple productions?
What we did with the studio was between the last movie and this movie, we got a separate building. We almost doubled our shooting space, and we separated the shops so they weren't so close to our shooting space. And we did that in an effort to be able to do like 2 movies at the same time and to be able to overlap them. So that is, in the fullness of time, that is our goal. It didn't work out the last one for a lot of different timing reasons, but it is a goal of ours for sure. And we have the infrastructure now really to do it.
And also, we did the set visit. The place is huge. It's so big. It just keeps going and going, further back. It's like an abyss. It just never ends. But my other question was a pop-up book or a coffee table book. Are we going to see like an art of...
Well, we have the art of Missing Link that's going to be out, and we really worked hard on it. And Chris and I worked super hard on that book, and we're proud of it. So that should be out the same, about April 12th, the release. But like a retrospective book, that's a really good idea, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, because
Good idea. That's a great idea. 10%.
There's so many beautiful sets and scenery from LAIKA Leica in general. It's like
It
Kubo's
is,
my
right.
personal favorite.
Thank
like
you.
so. Like, and then because of the history now, there's a history now for Leica and all these wonderful
Yeah.
films. Do you feel like you guys brought even more positivity in terms of like stop motion, and like people are more willing to like, oh, let's help you guys out, let's bring you guys up and stuff.
I think that us being around and existing for 13 years, if you there are other shows happening right now all over the world, and even in the Portland area, and that is like, we love that. We're so thrilled. We want to keep this, alive. Yeah, I do think it's because of the dedication. I think the reason we can have advances is because we have been there continuously. It's not just like a one-off. In Europe, there's always been a tradition of stop motion. It never really died, and it hasn't kind of gone away here either.
Yeah, Wes Anderson's still doing it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's about to do another one too. I think that the studio really, as far as likes, continues. We strive to push the bar, and I think, it's, to create movies at a certain level and bring other people through that. I mean, we make they're intensely artistic. The attention to detail is extraordinary. That's really a MO. But yeah, stop motion will never disappear.
I'm really fascinated about the engineering that you were talking about. Like, I didn't even think it went to that level. So I'm even more impressed with Leica than ever.
Yeah, his armature has about 250 plus components, and each one of them is considered. I mean, from a screw to a housing for his rack and pinion drives in there.
What's the
It's all designed, all built. We even order special screws sometimes, but we can't find exactly.
how many hours of work is
Hours?
right? Well, thousands.
We could say from final design, once you've cracked it, could be 3 months to make a puppet.
Yeah, with mass
Once you've cracked
manufacture,
the
we bring it in. I mean, in development, on average, about 9 months, with a fair few individuals around that.
And sometimes it exceeds it, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
less than that. But
Yeah.
if you were doing, say, a dupe and you had everything worked out, all of it would take about 3 months and a lot of people to do it.
And now, how many puppets are there for Mr. Link? Because he doesn't always wear this, and so do you need a different puppet when he's not wearing the suit?
Yes.
Oh wow! It's
I mean-
so it's not removable, or it's painted. I kind of.
It's kind of special. So, he has one. If you were going to put this on, you don't want to necessarily spend the time and the energy creating hair here or there. So usually we call them specials, and they're usually pretty special. It's not really like a Barbie where you can kind
Right.
of take it on and off.
So how many would you need for this character? Like, how many are there for this character alone?
It depends on how many shots. Like I had said before, I like to have a hero puppet for every character. But
Okay.
if I broke it down and I said, okay, only half of the movie, 50% he's in this, then I might reduce that by half. It depends on the number of shots and stuff. Yeah. I'm sorry if we've met before, by the way. I don't know.
No, we have. It's okay.
Hi.
Don't feel bad. I have horrible facial recognition. If I don't meet someone within 5 minutes, I'm done.